Hello, everybody. Seth here, and welcome back to the Hillbilly Hypnotist episode 4. And today I'm going to show you how to make a delicious squash casserole. And this is one of those dishes that is great on the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was a staple of my childhood, and I got this recipe from my great aunt Shirley, and I loved going to her house, and this is one of my favorite dishes. And but it's also it's good all year long. It's great with barbecue, going to a potluck. It's a great dish to take with you, and I think it especially pairs well with barbecue. And so ingredients: I've got 2 pounds of cut up squash, and I cut them, about a quarter inch, a little thick, because when you cook them down and get them tender and the moisture out, you don't want it to break down to nothing. And I've got a half cup of diced yellow onion, a half cup of sour cream, a quarter cup of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 egg, 3/4 cup of grated cheddar cheese. Then I've got a half teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. And then I got some Ritz crackers. You could use saltines or whatever cracker you like, and some pimento cheese that are going to go on top after the casserole bakes off. So the first thing you want to do is get your butter melting on the stove and get your squash cooking on the stove. And like I said, with the squash, you're just trying to get it tender and get all the moisture out of it. And I'm going to turn that squash on to a medium high heat, and I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. And with the butter, I'm just going to melt it down to put into this mixture here. So for the filling mixture, you got your half cup of sour cream, a quarter cup of mayonnaise, one egg, half cup of yellow onion, diced, sliced, however you like it. And then my half tea of salt, quarter tea black pepper, 1 tea white sugar. And I am just going to give all this a good mix, get this mixed up real well. Kind of break those onions down. I'm really not the biggest sour cream fan, but when it's especially raw, but when you cook it into something like this, it just works so well. It's so good. And I know in the summer, if you grow a garden and you could have one good squash plant and produce more squash than a family of 5 or 6 can eat. So this is a great thing to do with that as well. So I've got that mixed up well, and I'm going to add my 3/4 cup, probably a little extra, of cheddar cheese, and get that mixed in. And then for this recipe, is just a single recipe with the 2 pounds of squash. I have an 8x11 glass dish sprayed with some olive oil. But this recipe is easy to double, triple. You know, you could double it and go 9 by 13. You could triple it and buy a large aluminum pan from the grocery store to take on an outing. Yeah. Yeah, I loved my Aunt Shirley's cooking. And even when I got older, you know, she was my great aunt. And even as I got older and as generations grow and families grow, people start having their own holidays gatherings. But even when I was grown and I moved away and I would come back home, I would make it a point to stop by her house still, like I did in my childhood, for the loving and the cooking. So, one more thing we got to add my butter's not melted yet, but I am going to add my butter into this and mix it up when it's melted. And then with the squash, once it's tender, I am going to drain it really well in a colander and then add the butter into the squash into here and then put it into the baking dish. And I will come back and show you what that looks like when that squash gets done. All right, y'all, we're back and I've got my butter melted and my squash is nice and tender and has been drained in a colander really well. So I'm going to throw my butter in with my mix. Give that a spin. And then come in with the tender cooked squash. I did stay over by the stove and make sure the squash was moving around while it was cooking. So just get that all mixed in real well. Go into your baking dish. So my oven has preheated to 350 degrees. And I'm going to put this in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes and get it all nice and set up. Once that comes out of the oven, that's when I'll top it with my pimentos, not pimento cheese like I said earlier, but I'll top it with my pimentos and my crackers, and then I'll bake it off for another 5 or 6 minutes, and it is delicious. So I'll be back, pull that out of the oven, get it topped, finish it off, and we'll show you what that looks like. We're back, and the casserole's been cooking for 30 minutes and it looks great. I'm going to pull it out and get it topped with these crackers, diced pimentos, and then we'll pop it back in the oven. So I always do the pimentos first, and the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup. So I've just drained off 1 jar of diced pimentos from the store. Good color. And then I'm just going to crush these crackers up, crumb them. And you just want to have enough there to cover the top really well. Like I said, we'll throw it back in the oven, still at 350 degrees. Probably take 5 minutes to get everything good and hot and brown the crackers just a little bit, and then it will be ready to serve. Cool, we'll let that cook for 5 minutes and then we'll come back and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. All right, she's beautiful and she's done. And I appreciate y'all watching and cooking with me today. And I hope you like and subscribe to the channel. If you like it, I'll be doing more content in the future. And I've got a few videos that I've done over the past few days already uploaded. And I will end this with a snippet of the actual recipe my Aunt Shirley wrote out for me years ago. And that way you can screenshot it and have it for yourself and your family. Have a great day and thank you very much. I appreciate you.